The old Hargrove house had been sitting empty for 11 years on the corner of Blackwell Road and Cemetery Lane in rural Tennessee. Nobody in the town of Millhaven talked about it much anymore. Not because they had forgotten, but because talking about it meant remembering what happened to the Hargrove family. And remembering meant facing something that the people of Millhaven had spent 11 years trying to convince themselves was nothing more than a terrible coincidence. Marcus Webb was not from Millhaven. That was his first mistake. He drove into town on a Friday evening in late October, his car packed with camera equipment, recording devices, and enough enthusiasm to fill a stadium. Marcus ran a moderately successful YouTube channel called Dark Corners USA, a show where he visited allegedly haunted locations across the country, set up his cameras, spent the night, and documented whatever he found, or whatever he could make look interesting enough for the algorithm. He had 300,000 subscribers and a sponsored deal with a flashlight company. He felt invincible. He stopped at a gas station on the edge of town to fill up and grab some snacks. The woman behind the counter, a heavy-set lady in her 60s with silver hair and tired eyes, looked at his out-of-state license plate and then at his face with an expression that Marcus would later describe, in the voice memo he recorded that night, as recognition mixed with dread. "You heading somewhere specific, honey?" she asked, sliding his chips and energy drink across the counter. "Yeah, actually," Marcus said, grinning. "The old Hargrove place. You know it." The woman's hand stopped moving. She looked at him for a long moment without blinking. "I know it," she said quietly. "Great. What can you tell me about it?" "I'm doing a video for my channel. Horror stuff. People love abandoned houses, especially ones with a history." He leaned on the counter like they were old friends. She didn't lean back. Instead, she looked down at the counter and said, very slowly, "The house picks its visitors, son. It doesn't take well to people who come looking for a show." Marcus laughed, not unkindly, but the way young men laugh when they think old women are being dramatic. He thanked her, grabbed his things, and left. If he had stayed one moment longer, he would have seen her pick up her phone and dial a number. And he would have heard her say, "It's happening again. Someone's going to the house." The Hargrove house was everything Marcus had hoped for. 2 stories, Victorian style, white paint peeling like sunburned skin, shutters hanging at wrong angles, a porch that sagged in the middle like a broken spine. The yard was overgrown with tall grass and dead wildflowers. An iron fence surrounded the property, and someone had hung a "No trespassing" sign on the gate. But the chain holding the gate closed had rusted through years ago and fell apart in Marcus' hand when he touched it. Perfect, he thought. Absolutely perfect. He set up 4 cameras, one at the front door, one in the hallway, one in the upstairs bedroom where the family had last been seen, and one in the basement. He placed his audio recorders in the kitchen and the living room. He clipped a small camera to his chest and held a larger handheld camera for his walking commentary. "Okay guys, welcome back to Dark Corners USA," he said into the lens, standing in the front hallway. "Tonight we are in the Hargrove house in Millhaven, Tennessee. In 2013, the Hargrove family, Father David, Mother Susan, and their 12-year-old daughter Lily, disappeared from this house without a single trace. No bodies were ever found. No evidence of a crime. No sign of where they went. The case is still officially open. Tonight, I'm going to find out if something in this house has the answers." He smiled at the camera. He had no idea how right he was. The first 2 hours were quiet. Marcus walked through every room, narrated what he saw, tested the floors, checked the closets. The house smelled like old wood and something else, something faintly sweet that he couldn't quite identify, and that made the back of his throat feel strange. He noted a few interesting details. A dining table still set for dinner, plates and glasses covered in 11 years of dust, but otherwise undisturbed. A child's drawing on the refrigerator, held up by a magnet shaped like the state of Tennessee. The drawing showed 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a house. Above the house, drawn in red crayon, were the words, "We live here now." Marcus filmed the drawing. "Creepy, right?" he said to his camera. "Classic abandoned house stuff." "Love it," that he did not notice that the drawing had no dust on it. At approximately 11:15 p.m., Marcus was sitting in the living room reviewing his footage on a small monitor when the audio recorder in the kitchen produced a sound that he rewound it and played it through his earpiece. It was a child humming, a slow, tuneless melody. It lasted for exactly 8 seconds and then stopped. Marcus felt the first real flicker of something in his chest. Not fear, not yet. More like the feeling you get when you realize a situation is slightly more serious than you first thought. He stood up, picked up his camera, and walked into the kitchen. It was empty. Still. The only sound was the wind pushing against the window above the sink. "Hello?" Marcus said. His voice came out smaller than he intended. Nothing answered. He checked his camera. The night vision showed an empty room. He was about to turn around when he noticed the child's drawing on the refrigerator. The same one he had filmed 2 hours ago. Except now there were 4 stick figures. Marcus stepped closer. His camera shook slightly in his hand. 4 stick figures, all holding hands. The original 3, and one new one, slightly taller, slightly off to the side, with no face drawn on it. Just a blank oval where the face should have been. And underneath, written in red crayon that looked wet, that looked fresh, "Now you live here too." Marcus backed out of the kitchen. His heart was slamming against his ribs now, and he was breathing through his nose in the way people do when they're trying to control panic. "Someone is in this house with me," he thought. "Someone broke in while I was here. This is a prank. This is local kids messing with the paranormal guy. This is completely explainable." He told himself this firmly and clearly. And then he grabbed his phone to call 911 and discovered he had no signal. He checked the hallway camera feed on his monitor. Empty. Front door camera, empty. Basement camera, empty. Bedroom camera, static. He switched to the bedroom camera 3 times. Each time static. White noise and grain. He had tested that camera 40 minutes ago, and it had worked perfectly. The camera malfunctioned, he thought. Old house, bad interference. Simple. He was halfway up the stairs to check the camera physically when he heard it. Footsteps. Directly above him. Slow, deliberate footsteps crossing the bedroom floor. A child's footsteps, light but purposeful, moving from one side of the room to the other. And then a voice. A little girl's voice, muffled through the ceiling, singing that same tuneless melody from the audio recorder. Marcus stopped on the stairs. Every rational thought he had tried to hold on to crumbled at once, and what replaced it was pure animal terror. His legs would not move forward. His legs would, however, move backward, and so Marcus Webb, who had spent 4 years walking into haunted houses for entertainment, backed down the stairs 1 step at a time, grabbed his car keys from the living room table, and walked out the front door. He did not run. He would tell people later that he was proud of that. He walked to his car, got in, started the engine, and drove. He did not look in the rearview mirror. This was his second mistake. He checked into a motel on the highway, 40 minutes from Millhaven. He sat on the edge of the bed for a long time with the lights on, drinking water and breathing slowly. His hands stopped shaking around 1 a.m. By 2 a.m., the rational part of his brain had started its recovery, building explanations out of whatever material it could find. Kids playing pranks. The drawing must have been altered before he arrived, and he hadn't looked closely enough the first time. The footsteps were animals in the walls. The voice was wind through a broken window, shaped by the architecture of the old house into something that sounded almost human. Almost. By 3 a.m., Marcus was almost convinced. He opened his laptop and began uploading his footage. Might as well get something usable out of the night. He watched the footage from the hallway camera first. Nothing unusual. Then the front door camera. Then the living room. Then he opened the basement camera footage. For the first hour and 40 minutes, the basement was empty. Stone floor, stone walls, old wooden shelves, a rusted furnace in the corner. Nothing moved. Nothing appeared. And then, at the 1 hour 43-minute mark, something walked into frame. It was a man. Tall, wearing dark clothing, moving with a strange, jerky quality, like a video played at slightly the wrong frame rate. The man walked to the center of the basement and stood still. His back was to the camera. Marcus leaned closer to the screen. The man stood there for 6 minutes without moving. 6 full minutes. And then very slowly, he began to turn around. Marcus' blood went cold. Because the man turning around in his basement camera footage was wearing Marcus' face. His exact face. His clothes, the gray jacket, the dark jeans, the boots Marcus was wearing right now. But the expression was wrong. The expression on the face of the thing wearing Marcus' appearance was not an expression any human face should be able to make. It stretched in too many directions at once. And then the thing looked directly into the camera, and smiled, and held up a piece of paper. Marcus' hands were shaking so badly, he could barely keep the laptop still. He paused the video and zoomed. In on the paper, it was the child's drawing from the refrigerator. 4 stick figures. But now Marcus could see it more clearly than he had in the kitchen. The blank-faced figure, the new one, the one with no face, was holding car keys. Marcus slammed the laptop shut that he sat in the silence of the motel room. Then very slowly, he became aware of something. The motel room had a mirror on the wall across from the bed. Standard motel mirror, basic rectangular frame. He had not looked at it since he arrived. He looked at it now. His reflection looked back at him. For a moment, everything was normal. Then his reflection tilted its head to one side. Slowly. All the way. Far too far. The way a head moves when a neck has no bones left inside it. And Marcus realized, with a clarity that he would describe later as the most terrifying moment of his life, that he had not tilted his head. He had not moved at all. The reflection smiled. "Welcome home," it mouthed silently through the glass. The lights in the motel room went out. In the morning, the motel housekeeper found room 114 empty. The bed had not been slept in. A laptop sat open on the desk, showing a paused video frame. A gray jacket hung over the chair. Car keys sat on the nightstand. The housekeeper called the front desk. The front desk called the police. The police drove to the Hargrove house on Blackwell Road as a formality. They found Marcus' cameras exactly where he had set them up, still recording. They found his snack wrappers and energy drink cans. They found his monitor and his audio equipment. They found the child's drawing on the refrigerator. 5 stick figures now. At the police station, one of the officers pulled the old Hargrove case file. He read through it for the first time in years, and he found something that the original investigators had noted but never explained. Something that had seemed irrelevant at the time. When the Hargrove family disappeared in 2013, they had a guest staying with them. A cousin visiting from out of state. The cousin had arrived on a Friday in late October. His car was found parked outside. His suitcase was still inside the house. His phone was on the kitchen counter. His name was never released to the public. But in the original case notes, dated October 28, 2013, a responding officer had written one line that nobody had ever been able to explain. Family photos on the living room wall. For people pictured. Family reportedly had only 3 members. 4th person unidentified. Expression on 4th person's face inconsistent with normal human facial movement. Recommend psychiatric evaluation for reporting officer. The case had been filed as unsolved. It was still unsolved. It would always be unsolved. Because the house on Blackwell Road and Cemetery Lane did not take lives. It did not create crime scenes. It did not leave bodies or evidence or anything that police departments and forensic teams could work with. It simply added to its collection. Quietly, patiently, one visitor at a time. And if you ever find yourself driving through a small town in rural Tennessee, and you stop at a gas station on the edge of that town, and an old woman behind the counter looks at you with an expression that seems like recognition mixed with dread, do not ask her about the house on Blackwell Road. Do not go there with your camera. Do not spend the night. And whatever you do, do not look in the mirror before you leave.